It seems like we have to talk about this again. And I know we are beating a dead horse. We are making videos upon videos upon videos about the same thing over and over, but with every new conversation, there is an extra element added to the puzzle. And the puzzle, of course, that we are referring to is the future, the timeline, as to how Pittsburgh Penguins superstar defenseman Erik Karlsson's career is going to continue. It's been kind of a wild ride this summer because Pittsburgh, they're the only team that's really a seller in this NHL market at the moment. Every other team, from the San Jose's to the Tampa Bay's, from the Chicago's to the Toronto's, every team wants to be competitive. Except for the one that's got Sidney Crosby, Erik Karlsson, Evgeny Malkin, etc. But today's Erik Karlsson update comes to us from the form of an article published on thehockeynews.com. This was by Michael Whitaker from a few days ago, and it talks about how the Detroit Red Wings' alleged interest in former Norris Trophy winner Erik Karlsson refuses to go away. Now, I'll admit, the last time we made a video talking about Erik Karlsson and the Detroit Red Wings, it was citing a very particular interview done by Josh Yohei, who happened to make an appearance on the Kevin Karius show. What this article on the Hockey News does is it goes over that same show and highlights even more quotes as to what's going on with the Pittsburgh Penguins and their former 100-point defensemen. Take a look at this. Josh Yohei, who covers the Penguins for The Athletic, recently made a guest appearance on the Kevin Karius show and tossed another log onto the rumor mill of a potential Karlsson move to Detroit. Yohei began by reiterating the desire by Pittsburgh Penguins GM Kyle Dubas to move on from Karlsson, who has simply not worked out with the Penguins since his acquisition from San Jose. I really think he wants to trade Erik Karlsson. Karlsson has not worked in Pittsburgh, and it's been somewhat of a disaster to watch him play, Yohei said, but I know there are teams that are interested in him. The Penguins will have to eat some money if they do trade him. No one wants the $10 million cap hit that he comes with, Yohei continued, but I wouldn't be shocked if you hear his name pop up sooner rather than later. He then says this, Detroit is the team I've heard the most, who might be the most interested in him. Now, it's always interesting to take a look at Pittsburgh Penguins writers, fans, analysts who go out there and just talk about how bad Erik Karlsson has been. I mean, it's easy to say that when you watch him play, but it's a lot more difficult to say that when you look at just the raw, hard numbers. This guy has produced 50 points a year for Pittsburgh so far, coming off of the heels of a 100-point campaign with San Jose. Yes, it is true. He had the keys to the car with the Sharks in 2022-2023. He played almost all the power play minutes, and every single goal that was scored by that squad, Erik Karlsson either scored it or he had an assist on it. The guy was just the reason San Jose even scored goals in the first place. And the Sharks took advantage of that. They were able to make the Karlsson trade out, get rid of the contract, and get themselves some solace. Pittsburgh took him on because Kyle Dubas wanted to remain competitive. And competitive is not really what the Penguins are anymore, since Karlsson's presence just bogs the team down because of that contract. It's not particularly great, the situation that has been bestowed upon him and his team. Team, or teams, really, if you think about it like that. Every single time the guy gets moved, there's a glimmer of hope, and then he inevitably just becomes a part of a losing team, and his contract is seen as the devil. I mean, yeah, there were some competitive days with the San Jose Sharks, but he was kind of stepping on Brent Burns' toes. These guys couldn't coexist on the same team to the best of both of their abilities, and it's why one of them got shipped out. And then once Karlsson wasn't really competing for power play time with Burns, who also happens to be a top-tier right-handed offensive defenseman, or at least he was at that time, that's when Karlsson popped off. I don't want to make it seem like the exact same thing is happening in Pittsburgh. There was this sort of aura of hope and potential that Karlsson brought with him to the Penguins organization, but With Chris Letang in the mix, it was never going to be easy for him to take the keys to the car in the same way he did with San Jose. In a way, I don't think that kind of 100-point season is going to be possible for Erik Karlsson unless he goes to a team that very specifically is going to give him the keys to that car. And for the Detroit Red Wings, you can say that they have that opportunity. Could you say that Karlsson gets over to Detroit and he all of a sudden becomes a guy to take over the top power play over a Moritz Seider or an Erik Gustafsson? That makes sense in my opinion, right? Could you say that Stevie Y is one of the only GMs that could be desperate enough to put this sort of a deal to paper? Could the Detroit Red Wings be one of the only teams whose fan base is already clamoring with desperation and hopelessness that makes them say, okay, fine, let's just do it. Let's just get the guy on. Pittsburgh, you don't need to retain as much as if you were to trade him to some other team. We'll take on a good amount of that contract. And we just want a top-tier guy to mentor Axel Sandin Pellikka to be placed in a top spot power play-wise. And we'll take advantage of that by giving Mo Seider fewer minutes. And this guy will be in a pretty prime spot to be the everything else kind of dude, rather than the main everything period kind of guy. For Josh Yohei in particular, a Pittsburgh Penguins beat writer, to say that he's hearing that Detroit is the team who have the most interest in this guy, it makes sense. And the article that we were looking at goes out there and says Karlsson's cap hit is $1.5 million higher than the $10 million cited by Yohei, and there's no chance that Yzerman would take him at that number. For any deal to work, the Penguins would need to retain a significant portion of his salary. Right now, the Wings have approximately $11.9 million of available cap space. It's true that Karlsson's best days are behind him, and at 35, he's not getting any younger. However, a major asset for the Swedish D-man is that he remains an effective player on the power play and continues to excel as a puck mover. With 11 goals and 42 assists, Karlsson would have been Detroit's highest-scoring defenseman last season. Training camp is now just over a week away, and there is still time for a major deal to be made. Will it materialize? We'll have to wait and see. So the article is doing a pretty interesting thing by acknowledging the fact that Steve Yzerman might be a little bit hesitant to take on Erik Karlsson at X amount of dollars or whatever, but I do still stand by the assessment that if Yzerman is just a little bit more desperate or daring, you can use either of those two words interchangeably, I'd say, at this point, then maybe there is a move to be made that sees a player like Erik Karlsson coming over to Detroit. It just seems like everybody's been linking this player to this team, and there are very little other conversations going on at this point, that it's starting to become one of these like, oh yeah, it's only being talked about because it seems like an inevitability at this point. Do you think that this is how things are going to go down? Does it seem more like an inevitability that Erik Karlsson is traded, and much less so to Detroit? Where do you think this guy's going to get traded otherwise if you do not think the Red Wings are going to get him? Let me know in the comments all your opinions about the Red Wings apparently having the most interest in an Erik Karlsson acquisition. I hope you enjoyed this Swedish Ash Rolls 99, and bye.